laughed, and then I started. All right. Welcome back to the Writer's Block. I'm Todd. We've got Andy Camarra with us today, and we are interviewing him. I bet you didn't expect that. We're going to ask him some really deep questions and figure out what's going on in that noggin of his, and we're gonna figure out his the things that inspire him, the things that motivate him, what he's striving for and towards. We will know the real Andrew Camarra by the end of this interview. How do you feel, Andy?
Damn, I didn't know it was going to get that intense.
There's a slight possibility I was a bit dramatic.
Oh man, that was good. I was like, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to come up with better answers in my head on the spot than I usually can.
All right. Well, I don't think these questions are too crazy. I didn't want to use the same questions that you asked me previously, so I try to kind of come up with something a little different, So, are you ready for?
I am ready. Yeah? I will pretend that I am super ready when I'm just in reality, just ready, or pretend to be ready.
I can't say that I follow that, but yes, I agree. All right. All right. So, softball question first, don't want to, charge at the gates just yet. So tell the audience, everyone that's listening, why do you write?
Why do I write?
It's a broad question, but.
Well, I think we've touched on this before in previous episodes, but I like to see how creative I can be, and how, like, because sometimes I think, the stuff that I think about in my head, like creativity or story wise, I'm like, oh, this is utter garbage, but we're going to try it anyway. And then I can get it written down on paper. I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't half bad. That's pretty cool. So it's kind of for like myself, but also I like writing to tell a story and have other people read it and see their reactions to it too, especially when it's like, wow, I've never, read something like this, or this, second person or third person narrative is interesting and I've never thought about it like this before. So it's other people's reactions to it, and it's just fun. I don't know why I find it enjoyable, to be honest with you. It's just sometimes being able to create fictional characters and scenarios and being able to write it down and have it sound articulate and make sense. It's pretty, I guess that's the biggest takeaway, is that it's enjoyable and I could create scenarios, like I said, and have it make sense, and overall be hopefully enjoyable for people to read. That's the biggest thing.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, it kind of actually leads into another question I had, which was, do you write to make a living, or I guess do you write in hopes of one day making a living off of it, or just mostly for yourself? Which one's
right now? Right now it's just for myself. But I mean, idealistically, if I could write without making it purely, like, obviously it's going to be my full-time job, but like being able to still write with that pure, innocent, enjoyability behind that would be great. Because once it starts becoming a job and tedious and not wanting to do it anymore, I'd probably be afraid that I wouldn't want to write. If it started to become, like, oh, I got to get up and go to the office and write for, a couple hours. Like, so if I can make that balance between having it become my full-time source of income, but also keeping it pure and innocent and enjoyable, then that would be the perfect storm, in a sense, where I would that's why I would do it for a job. But for right now, I just do it for myself, and then hopefully entertain others if I can get them to go on my website every time I, post a new story. But I have to promote it. Like, it always goes back to self-promotion, which is a whole nother topic of conversation that I'm not good at.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, that actually kind of also ties into another question I had. It's absolutely crazy. What's your I guess what's your roadmap, your long-term plan with writing? Like I know like, obviously the end goal is full-time author, but are there specific steps that you are planning on taking along the way
I
to
need to
either grow
start.
your
I need to start broadening my stories again. I've had this irrational series going on for about a month, 6 weeks. So that's probably going to come to an end here soon because I feel like because I tried to expand. I have two more in the bank for sure that are going to go out, and then I had a couple side pieces that kind of seemed forced, and I'm like, this is starting to get repetitive, and it's not as enjoyable. Sorry, someone's scooping out something outside there. I don't know what the hell's going on. Sorry.
It happens all the time.
Anyway, so that's got to go away because I don't want it to make it like, oh, it's just the same shit over and over again, just from a different perspective, because that can get annoying and people are like unenjoyable to read. So, well, it depends. I don't ever get any feedback, so I don't know.
Fair enough.
I did actually. That's a lie. I did get feedback from my old boss when I worked at my local library. She said, keep going. I was like, okay. And that was when I only had the 3 stories, I think.
Yeah.
It might have been the 4th one. No, it was only the 3. Only the 3, the first 3 out. So, okay. I was like, okay. So I did continue it. But I think now it might be the capping 2 more and then that's it.
Yeah.
Because I created an ending. It's not the best ending. I might have to go back and critique it, but I haven't written in like 2 weeks because you kind of just, I wasn't in the writing zone.
Yeah. Also the holidays can kind of make it difficult to focus.
Yeah, especially if you have a other job that requires full attention to holiday buying.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you have a job in retail, I mean that adds on to the regular, family obligations of the holidays,
I know I'm going off tangent here, but so circling back, I guess a long-term goal is to really start honing in on my novel and like maybe getting a couple. I know I've preached like I don't like to have a cap of page numbers or a word count when I write, but I think I got to start having a checklist of let's get a chapter 2 done in my novel, like maybe once or twice a week if I can, so I can maybe just pushing it by March have something. It's only 4 months away, but 4 months away. So it's capable, like it's possible, but I have to really focus in and be like, oh, or I could go on my phone and scroll Twitter, listen to music, maybe play some video games.
I know the feeling.
Accidentally take a nap, So I just had, that's like, for now, that's the long-term goals. Get this book really going, like going now and really focusing on that. But also I think on the side to not overwhelm me, have like short stories. I just came up with a mini project maybe that would work. It would be interesting. It's like another series, I guess, but it would be more of like, it's a series, but there will be different ending. There will be actual endings, or there will be no cliffhangers or anything like that. So I can put those on my website.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right.
I don't know how I don't know how you define long term, because that 4 months isn't that long term, but that's like the biggest goal right now is to get this novel like churning more.
Follow-up question. So you want to have something done by March? Are you saying you want the whole novel by March, or just like the first
preferably
chapter?
No, really? I have the first chapter done.
Okay.
I have like 8 pages, I think 9 pages. I would prefer, like, if I could have like maybe 225, 250 pages done. Because again, like I've said before, I know how it's going to end.
Yeah.
It's got to get to that point.
Yeah.
Which is tougher. Some days it's tougher because I realize I have to do more research too.
Research is important. You don't want to, that's one thing I've learned, is you don't want to talk about well, not talk about, you don't want to write about things and then explain them incorrectly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I need to go shadow like a small town cop for a day or a couple hours. Then I got to feel like I got to go to a gun range and understand the inner makings of a gun because I've never shot a gun before in my life. So go somewhere where it's safe to do and not like, oh, I have a buddy be like, let's go to my cousin's backyard and start shooting trees.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
I was gonna say,
I'm not gonna do that.
We are in Florida. It's a great place to just randomly
yeah. So
do
I
both
have
of
to
those things. So
I have to do that some point in my life, probably in the near future. I don't know how I'm going to do the shadow, the whole small town cop thing, because it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, one, because that's liability in case there's shit goes down. You have to respond to something.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably also find,
or I could just interview somebody to
I'm sure there's YouTube videos of, the daily life of a cop in a small town, small town probably sheriffs too, right? So,
sheriff's department. Yeah. I mean, I kind of have an idea because I know a couple people in the sheriff's department, but I haven't talked to them in a long time. So I think I'd have to find somebody new or just YouTube videos. But that's the biggest thing is sitting down, doing the research, probably getting out of like my room and doing stuff and not just writing on my bedroom when my cat like walks across the keyboard or I hear grandma yelling at the TV because the football team that she bet on is losing. Like, not be distracted.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And like put my phone on do not disturb and just kind of go because it connects. I didn't realize this. This is how untech savvy I am. But since I have a Mac and an iPhone, when you put your phone on do not disturb, it puts your Mac on do not disturb, I guess, with the new update.
That's interesting.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I know their tech's pretty synchronized, but that's interesting. I guess sticking with your current novel, so this is your main project at the moment, or your main like long-term project is this novel. And I guess my question is, well, tell us more about it. Is it the first in
it's going to be a series? Yeah, it's going to be a series. I'm definitely going to have. I have like, it's funny because I haven't finished the first one, but I have an idea for the second one and even the third one. At least have at least 3. And so that's the goal. That's, I guess, okay, that's a long-term goal is to create like kind of have a series build up to that point. But so that's that. It's not going to be super long, I don't think.
Yeah.
The books anyway. The series might go on for, I don't know. I guess I've never read a cop series that all of a sudden like it's ended yet.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, does everybody get blown up at the end and that's it? So that's something else. Like the books that I focus in on as, I guess, quote unquote research, they haven't ended yet. They still come out with new ones.
Yeah.
So
you could always just put out your first few stories that you have and then maybe try other products or other projects and then come back to it in the future.
I probably have to do that because if I cranked out 3 and then just focused in on those, I'd probably get burned out and not have like repetitive ideas, So that's probably okay. Maybe I lied. There'd be 4 because it's cliffhanger in the first one, something different, and it ends with the cliffhanger ends in the second one. Third one, it's focused in on like what the cliffhanger was, and then the fourth one would just be something random.
Okay.
I don't want to give it away on camera. Like I can explain it to you off camera, but I don't want to get it.
Fair enough.
Into it.
I mean, you don't want to spill the beans too early. No. You want people to come back and buy the next book, which actually brings me into my next question. So this first novel of yours, this debut novel, how do you plan to get it out into people's hands? Are you going to self-publish it, or do you want to find a traditional publisher?
I'd probably take some money out of my savings account and have someone do it the traditional way.
Mm-hmm.
Or I mean, I would compare the two to see like the cost and between each of them, but I'd probably go the traditional route if I could. Well, because the main thing is if I could find someone to read it.
Yeah.
I don't know who does it for like a job. I mean, there's someone on Twitter. It's like, oh, I have, copy editors that will do this for $100. I'm like, you're just doing this to get, out there. I don't know. I've never heard of you. I just followed you because you followed me first. And it was when I started first like spam following authors on Twitter.
Yeah.
And they don't actually tweet new things. It's like the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Buy my books. So I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So I would have to find somebody who actually would do it.
Yeah, I think like if I remember correctly, the first step is finding an agent that will represent you that can send your work to major publishers. I think that agent works with you on rewrites and stuff like that. Like they'll have you rewrite it and edit and so forth until it's marketable to one of the publishers. And then well, from what I've read or from what I've heard, it's hard also just to find an agent.
Yeah.
Or hard to get an agent, not to find one, but because you have to, obviously it's a very diverse field of people, very competitive.
Well, especially when you're like you're an unknown up to that point because you have your little blog website thing, but that's it. Mm-hmm. You don't have a book already in the bank that you self-publish and it shot off and everybody's out making you offers.
Yeah. Well, one thing I read also is that actually one of the bad parts about self-publishing, I don't know if this is true or not, but it's that even so, like when you self-publish, obviously it's it's all up to you to market it, but that first thing you put out is technically considered your debut no matter what. So when people look back at your debut, if it was self-published and if it didn't sell well because you didn't market it well or whatever, then it might hurt your chances in the future. So I hope it's not true because that would be me, but that's one thing to consider too.
Yeah. So that's the probably traditional. I'd have to do the pros and cons, like a T-chart for both, but it's definitely for now, without doing any research, I would lean towards a traditional route.
Makes sense. So I guess going back to your book, what time period is it set in?
It's present day.
All right.
But it's present day, but I don't know. I guess I have to put this in there now. It's COVID doesn't exist because the new book, like just the book I just read, that the Jesse Stone series that I talk about a lot on here,
just a little bit,
because I don't branch out on my horizons enough, but they incorporated COVID-19 into like the newest book, and I was like, this is, for me anyway, I don't want to really think about that all the time because you're up and you have to think about parts of it all the time because it's just in the world happening right now. So it would be present day, but it's not COVID era. I guess it's either before COVID ever existed or you just jump that whole, like it doesn't happen. It just never exists because that's a whole nother subplot that I don't know if I could. You'd have to incorporate, which is annoying.
Yeah, well, I guess that was part of like a larger question of like in general, when you write, do you prefer any particular time period, or do you kind of just go whenever, or is it
I just kind of I guess sometimes it's the type of mood I'm in. Like Irrational is present day, and it takes place in a couple month time span that I don't like specifically say, because it's up for it's interpretation, but in my head it's a series of events that took place in like a couple month period. So that's how my brain works. It's just like you assume, like if people know what I'm talking about or the situation that I'm talking about, okay, then they get it more than the regular person who doesn't know me and has read it. And it's just like, okay, it's just another story. But and I don't give any hints. It's like, oh, it's back in the 1960s during whatever, or the late 1970s when the mob was taking over New York City.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing like that. I don't
Okay.
have any like specific examples in my writing.
So in the future, I guess, will you probably just kind of maintain that sort of modern or contemporary setting, or will you ever?
Probably,
Yeah.
or because like part of this other series that I was thinking about, thought about going like back
Mm.
in time,
Like 1940s or something,
maybe
1930s.
something like that. But that also requires more research that you have to do to make sure the time, everything
Yeah.
is up to par. And sometimes when I write short stories, like if I'm in the mode for it, I don't look it up anything. I just kind of go.
Yeah.
So it's like that's why I like doing contemporary at the most, because sometimes I find research to be boring.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's interesting, but other times it's just like I don't.
Yeah,
Why do it when I'm already I'm kind of fatigued try to figure my story plot and how it's going to flow.
mhm. So what do you when you consider research? Um, are you mostly looking at articles and like anecdotal
Yeah,
bits?
articles, and then sometimes if I need something quick, it's just like a Wikipedia like da thing. That's pretty much it. Like
All right.
I have so the town that my story takes place in used to be a logging town. So I had to make sure that I was putting the 20th century or the 19th, 20th century. I had to make sure that it merged from the 19th century into the 20th, like early 20th century. So it's like the actual logging time when it was at its peak,
Yeah.
because it takes place. So my town's a fictional town in in the Adirondack Park. So
Yeah.
that's a real
I've heard of that
park.
place.
So that's a real park.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure the logging industry, when it took place in that specific setting, was during a specific time. So I wanted to make sure that was the historical facts, I guess.
Yeah. Background
You know,
information and such.
yeah. But then the fictional part is that the town is like almost 9,000 people, and that's almost
Too
twice the
high.
amount of twice the amount of most towns
Yeah.
that are that have people stay year round in that
Yeah.
park.
When they
So
lost their like major industry and such.
yeah. So and then I kind of, I guess without getting too much away, I kind of like fibbed and said like they have a logging museum and a bunch of local shops that keep the tourists coming
Yeah.
like for peak season, and in the off season they can maintain whatever, even though they're not, because people still come and do winter activities and stuff
Okay.
like that. Because you have to, I guess for me, since I know what it's like, because I worked at a convenience store in the Adirondacks, and I understand how like slow it can be in the
Yeah.
wintertime, because it's peak season is Memorial Day to, I want to say,
Labor Day.
Labor Day, or yeah, and then Columbus Day there's a little peak because everybody's kind of they have a long weekend and they come to see the leaves, and that's
So,
in early October. And then after that, you get if you're on the lake like that store was, you're lucky because you get the snowmobilers coming off the lake to get gas
yeah.
or food, because they have a deli too.
All right.
But
So
if you were stiff, but they also have like not to get into, sorry to get into like the
it's fine.
personal part, but they also do boat repairs and long-term projects. Like it's a marine, so they sell boats and do like maintenance on them or whatever. So in the wintertime, the biggest revenue is the long-term boat project. So if someone needs a new engine put into their boat, or they need something done to the hull or whatever, that's how they make the revenue there, because it's thousands of dollars. And they also store boats, so that in itself, depending on the size, is $800 to $1,000 for that period of time too. So it's like grocery store in the summer, and gas in the summer, and then wintertime it's boats.
Utility store.
Yeah, boats and stuff like that.
It's interesting
to make the revenue. If you can ever work for a mom and pop grocery store, you should. It's quite interesting because I came out of there knowing so many different things because you never knew what was going to happen that day. You could do 14 different things in the day that you didn't even think about.
You ever think about opening up your own shop?
No, because you never have a day off. You never have the weekends are the biggest week. The weekends are the busiest.
Yeah.
And if you have a long weekend, then okay, during the week, it's a short week. And then you got to make sure, you're constantly ordering stuff, you're talking to, vendors, you're talking to, doing inventory, that's not computerized. You have to have, I had a printout for so you had to do certain inventories on certain days. So it'd be your inventory I do on, I don't know, Monday morning. Cause in the wintertime, it was just me downstairs, from 8 o'clock until 3:30, 4 o'clock until the kids got the college kid got out of school. And then they'd close at 7 o'clock. So it was just me all day. So I'd have to go and you would literally circle, write what you had in the beer cooler and then go downstairs, in the basement area where they kept the one small cooler and then the warm beer on pallets and count what you had. And then you add it up. And if it equaled the total that you have, you circle it. If not, you'd have to correct it or try to find it.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to ask.
It's basic grocery store stuff that, you and I do, but it's not computerized. So you have to do, it's everything you have to do twice. Cause then you have to, if you have to fix it, then you have to go into the computer system and then fix it.
Sounds like quite a process.
It's a process because the computer system was old, very old. And I think we still used Windows XP, I think.
I mean, at least it wasn't Windows 95.
Yeah, because the system was called the General Store, and it was from
2002.
Yeah, you could buy the updated version, but you'd have to update everything.
Yeah.
Then the computers are also connected to the boat, the marine part. It's just a whole process, and I'm like, if you could pay someone to do it.
Yeah.
And you would just oversee stuff, but it's some days you're like, oh, maybe. And then other days you're like, hell no.
Well, I guess building on the research idea, have you ever, you read other books as part of the research, but do you consider watching TV shows or movies or even playing video games as part of the research?
I've been telling myself I have to play LA Noire more again to do the detective part. Haven't done that because you have to really pay attention, and I'll have to have my headset in so I can hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
And what I need to do or interact, because sometimes when my grandparents have the TV on, it's loud because they can't hear.
Yeah.
So you're kind of distracted because then you don't want to crank my TV up too loud because that it swears. I don't need, it's not like I'm a child who's trying to hide swear words from my grandparents who've heard,
quite a bit
almost all. Yeah. So it's just, I don't need that. I don't need to have that overpower whatever they're watching. So
here's
I don't know if a TV show, I don't really watch a lot of TV. I'm trying to think of movie. I'm just not movie wise, I'm not a big movie goer. I will stick to the movies that I've seen and I like, and I'll just rewatch those.
Yeah.
I'm not as you can as you guys have figured out, I don't branch out even with books, I don't branch out to different genres usually, which I, been harping on myself to do. Almost did today. Almost grabbed the Harry Potter book at the library, but I said, no, I'm good. I'm not.
I hear 50 Shades of Grey is good. You can always give that a shot. But actually, going back to the research idea, though, have you ever asked your grandparents about their experiences in life? Because I can imagine they've got a lot of stories to tell.
Well, we talk about
draw, some kind of influence from or inspiration from for some of this, because I'm sure like were they from New York, born in New York, I
Yes.
assume.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sure they've,
Well, yeah, like I know, like my grandmother father bought this two family home, and he was going to make it into one family, and then he died, so it just ended up staying like that. When she and then, but I mean, we just talk about, because they grew up. This is so cliche, but they talk about what like it was like in the. They had mob people. They knew people in the mob, and like my dad had friends that his parents were mob people. So that's
yeah.
it's not detective stuff. It's like, yeah, she was telling me the other day that I woke up one morning and everybody was talking, and yeah, someone got shot down the street because they got caught cheating at poker. And you're just like, okay. And they just went, oh, all right, just brush it off.
What you
Continue
gonna
on
do
with your day. I don't know what you're gonna do, because then just don't cheat at poker. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I mean, part of it you could use it as an inspiration for not the detectives, but maybe
It's a
the bad
separate
guys.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do that too.
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes they had like an Irish mob or a Ukrainian mob in the book that I was just reading. That was, so they have mobster stuff in it. But that's another research. I'd probably have to play the Mafia game too. I have a general idea, but
Yeah. So here's a follow-up to the follow-up to the follow-up. Do you have plans for a mob-related book? It kind of sounds like there's an idea there.
no, I could, or I could make that into a mini series. I don't know, follow a mobster around. It would be interesting to write about.
Do a ride along with a mobster.
Second person mobster story.
Oh, maybe.
That'd be something. Now I'm kind of thinking about that now.
Yeah. I've had a mob related story myself that I wanted to do for a long time, but
I know, because
done it.
You and I talked about co-writing a book. I should be, if you are listening this far into this interview, comment and see if we should co-write a book, because that'd be interesting too.
Oh.
That'd be a good project for us to do.
Yeah. Also, comment what kind of story you would want, or what.
Yeah, because we had an idea.
Yeah.
How we wanted to do it, but it would be interesting to see what others thought too.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you're listening to this, if I haven't bored you to, death and sleep.
But I guess, so back to the previous follow-up, I'm going to build off of that follow-up, a sort of additional follow-up. So going back to the TV, movies, books, video games, do you draw any, so before I asked if you use those as research, but do you draw any influence or any, does it influence your writing at all? Just stuff you've seen in the past or whatever. Not necessarily LA Noire or such and such, but like books that you've read from like Robert B. Parker or
books, mostly books.
Yeah.
Because some points, like I was writing even small dialogue in my book, and I'm like, I have to get rid of this because it's how
same style as
it's how the cop talks in his book, and I'm like, I this is, if I ever have, when I get this all done, I'm gonna be like, okay, you have to read one Robert P. Parker book first, and then you read my novel, and if it's kind of like you with the Carrie thing.
Yeah.
And if this is identical, you need to tell me, and I'm gonna have to scratch it or fix it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that it's devastating when you realize that you basically just recreated somebody else's story and it's just too close to even consider it being original.
Well, because I was like, because people have read my prologue, so you get the premise that, okay, you're gonna find somebody in a lake, without giving too much away, and then there's a book where, of course, these guys find somebody tied down in a lake, and you're like, what? But that's tough, because you can only create so many different crime scenarios without repeating yourself.
Change the term lake to pond. Problem solved.
That's the tough part, because it's the one. Well, she was washed up on the beach. This one, like that, mine washed up on the beach. Theirs was in the marsh, so it's different.
Okay, there you go. Down in the Everglades.
Yeah. And a group of teens found the body compared to what had happened in the book / movie.
All right.
So but you like that's the toughest part. Like I mostly get influenced from books I'm reading, and then I'll be like, this sounds exactly like Robert P. Parker, and I'm like, oh crap.
Oh, I guess so. It's safe to assume that Robert B. Parker is your favorite author. Is that
Yeah,
all right?
that's
So,
yeah.
what is it that you like about him? What is it? Is it his writing style, or his techniques, or his storytelling?
Yeah, I
His
like how
name? It's a cool name.
I like how he has I don't know why I'm so drawn to like uh small town settings, probably because
Yeah.
that's what I grew up in and that's what I'm most used to. I mean, I even went to a school that like probably half the population was the college kids, you know?
Yeah.
So because you would never expect to have two schools in this town,
The
you
public
know.
schools or universities / colleges?
Mine was a university, and then the other one was a state university, like State University in New York, SUNY school.
Okay.
So to explain it, SUNY schools are
I guess I've never heard of that.
SUNY schools they're state run, I guess, in a
Like
way. They
kind
get
of
more.
like a community college.
Yeah, it's community college, but you
Okay.
can get a 4 year.
All right.
You can
And
get a 4 year degree in certain,
certain fields.
and then other ones if you want to just get your bachelor's. Like I had a friend, she went to the school that went like next to St. Lawrence, and she got her associates there and then transferred to get her bachelor's degree in whatever field she was. I can't remember what she was studying.
That's what I'm doing.
So it's kind of that's the same. Like so, it's kind of like going to SCP, like St. Pete College, and then
Yeah.
transferring to USF. Like what do
Yeah.
you do? Yeah, that's
That's
basically what it
exactly
is.
what I'm doing.
That same exact thing.
Yeah. All right. And I
So,
guess
but yeah, small town. Grew
yeah.
up in it. Worked in the sort of environment where it's like a lot of the people who walk in to like the grocery store. Almost everybody by their first name that aren't tourists. You even know the people on the lake where they live, what boat they use, how to fill their gas tank a certain way, because how the boat engine works. You don't even have to ask them, you just do it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I picked that scenario. And
Yeah.
that's why I feel connected, because the Jesse Stone series in itself takes place in a small town. I mean, it's small town, but it's not as small as mine.
Mm-hmm.
But
I gotta say the last like couple minutes, that song "Small Town" by John Mellencamp has been in my mind. Just want to throw that out there. So I will say you do have a unique what's the right word, experience, I guess, and then from living in a small town of how many people would you say were in your town that you grew up in? 2,000?
well, to
Were?
give you I couldn't tell you off the
Doesn't have
top
to be
of my
exact,
head,
just like a
but I mean, like, I honestly don't know if I could give you a number because I'm not good with that kind of thing. But I had 122 students in my graduating class of high school.
I mean, compared to St. Petersburg, Florida, it's
So, oh my god,
considerably
yeah,
smaller.
yeah.
So
I guess it could be like, I don't even know how many people live on St. Pete Beach. Like I wanted to compare it to like,
just that
because
one
technically
section.
St. Pete, yeah, it's one little section.
Yeah,
I can honestly Google it,
I mean, it's not that important.
but I mean, it wasn't too small because you had 4 elementary schools, a middle school, and then a high school. Now you only have 2 elementary schools and a high school.
No middle school?
No middle school anymore.
Wow. Is it elementary? Is it K through 8?
It's K through 6. So it was K through 6. Then you went to middle school, 7th and 8th grade, and then high school was 9th through 12th.
So now 7 through 12 is all at high school?
Yep, all at the high school.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's funding because you don't have.
You go like your
No, mine was 4 elementary schools. So the 4 elementary schools were broken off to like this, like it was the Greater Johnstown School District, but within that you had like sections. So if you lived on certain, like a certain area, you went to Pleasant Ave. In a
Yeah,
different area, you went to Glebe Street. That's where I went to
yeah.
elementary school.
I was gonna say you're that elementary school. Was that for you? Was it K through 6
K
as
through
well?
6. Yep.
That's
It
different. For
was
me, I hear it's K through 5, and then middle
no,
is
no,
6 to
no,
8.
K through 6, and then
Yeah,
it's you go to the middle school, which was a block away from me. You walked. Well, I literally walked to elementary and middle school,
it's interesting.
and then I drove or got dropped off at high school.
Well, that explains a lot. I'm just kidding. I guess let's roll into the next question. Well, let's see. What is your preferred genre to write in? Is without a doubt, the crime related, investigative, mystery, thriller, and that a collection of all that. It's just the vibe I get. I could be wrong. Could be,
Hey, you could. Hey, that's a good connection. I don't know. I don't think I've ever actually mentioned that I like doing that, but that's a good connection.
So I guess my question is, would you ever consider leaving that and trying something different, something that's
I mean,
not
the only I feel like I have a little bit in this previous Irrational series I have, but it's also small.
That's why I asked. It's because that was kind of big.
Yeah. I mean, most of my I think almost all my short stories, unless I have like 2 short stories that involve my novel characters. Everything else is just regular. I don't even know what kind of genre it is.
It's like contemporary fiction.
Yeah. Like, you have.
I feel like that works.
You have Rue, that's just kind of whatever. Then you have The Porch, that, that ends with that. I don't want to give it away in case someone wants to go and read it.
Yeah.
But it's just contemporary, nothing. There's no specific. I don't know if I could ever do a whole book though.
So, follow-up question: if people wanted to read your stories, where can they find them at?
So I found out if you Google my name, Andy Camarra, and you go, it's like the 3rd link that pops up. My website is there because it is Wix. It's my full name. So Andrew S. Camarra .wix.stories or something like that. But if you Google Andy, A-N-D-Y, Camarra, Camarra, 3rd thing down, click it, and you'll see the Wix website.
Okay.
Or I have a link tree in my Twitter account and my Instagram and my Facebook. And
what are the names on all of those? Are they all the same?
LinkedIn, yeah, Facebook, yes. I think Twitter and Instagram are my link tree. So it's
all right.
Camarra 0627.
Okay.
Don't ask me why I put that on there because I thought I had to have numbers. Because yours is just Todd Byron. I was like, okay.
Yeah, the one and only. I gotta say, I got lucky. There's a little side note. There's someone else out there named Todd Byron. Hard to believe, I know, but
there's someone else named Andy Camarra who just got married. I was like, oh hell yeah, congratulations! You have to scroll down for that one.
Yeah. Well, this other guy named Todd has his own like car business. I don't know, like car fixing and whatever. Mechanics. He's a mechanic, I think. And luckily I got the Twitter and I think Instagram too before he did. So I'm like, fine. And a website. Anyways, moving on. So we were just talking about your favorite genre being crime and such. What is your least favorite genre?
I would have to say fantasy.
Really?
And it depends. Fantasy and like sci-fi kind of go back and forth. I don't. Again, I don't really branch out. I mean, I've never read a romance novel in my life. But I read Harry Potter. I feel like I need to read it just because
Fair enough.
But science fiction, I'm like, doesn't really excite me. Like, I don't understand the different, scenarios that they're talking about. I mean, my brother likes to watch movie like that stuff, but
Mhm.
and read some of that stuff, but he's not as big of a reader as I am.
Fair enough. I mean, you could always try to you could do like a crime thriller in a sci-fi setting or a crime thriller in a fantasy setting, kind of blend them
Yeah.
together. Of course, I mean that would be an interesting twist, but you know, maybe an idea for a short story to experiment with.
Yeah. I
But
think that's if I ever wanted to try something else, I'd have to do a short story to see if it worked first.
well,
I think.
I have one final question. Are you ready for it, Mr. Camarra? With two R's, right? Two R's.
R's.
That's what I thought. Now,
Two R's, three A's, one M.
That's a lot. I'll try to write that down. So here we go. Are you ready for this heavy hitter of a question?
It's the best you got. Sit the best for last, I guess.
Yeah. Where do you see yourself in 20 years?
Oh, jeez. Hopefully not still living with my grandparents. Well, I mean, I don't. That would be in 20 years. That would be quite impressive if I was still living with my grandparents, because they would be
100,
105 and 107.
Wow.
So,
well, I suppose that's that then.
That's that. But was that the question?
Yeah, that was it. That was it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Serious answer. Hopefully have at least 2 or 3 books published at that point. You know, what like not well, hopefully like that'd be cool if I was on the New York Times bestsellers list, but that's a far, far goal. But hopefully have like not just well known enough in like the book community, have, you know, my book at a bookstores and in the library system.
Yeah,
that would be that's
the
ultimate.
and all that.
Yeah. You know, have like a meet and greet or something and people actually show up and not.
Yeah. Rent out Madison Square Garden for a couple hours.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
All right, well,
But
that's I'm afraid that's all I got.
That was good. That was definitely more. I think some of those questions were better than the ones I came up with last week.
They're just questions I came up with about 20 minutes before we started recording, you know. Did a quick Google search. What questions should I ask Andrew Camarra?
Yeah.
But, well, is there anything else you want to tell the audience or about yourself? Or?
No, you can follow me at Camarra. I don't like my Twitter or Instagram handle because I made it in high school. It's Camarra, it's GK1 at both platforms. The link will be in the descriptions because God, I don't like, but I'm not going to change it at this point. I'm like, whatever. It's just,
yeah.
And then Facebook is just my name. LinkedIn is my, like, I guess Andrew. It's my real name, not my nickname. But that's where you can find me, you know, and then my website too, which is also in the description and all on my platforms as well. Just be on the lookout. I have a couple more projects to shoot. I think I'm going to shoot one out. I'll have at least one new one that is dropped by the time this airs. Maybe 2. I think just one. It might be one before the holiday, and then after the holidays, then I'll drop the other one. Because I'm still kind of working on it. The ending doesn't sit well with me right now, so still working on that. But it will be. I think that will be then the ending to the Irrational series by the time, like, when those 2 end, because it's time to, I think, move forward onto different things than that, because sometimes it just doesn't, after a while you're like, this is the same garbage. So that's that's where we are right now. Hopefully I get more writing in, keep my fans what's at their edge of their seats waiting for me to publish something new. that's
Fair
that's
enough.
that's that's the short-term plan right now. So be on the lookout if you haven't read the other two that I dropped at the same time, which I'm never doing that again, by the way, because one got like I was like, gotta read this one before you read the other one. And people read the first one and then they're like, not gonna read the second one. And the second one
Sure.
kind of ties in more to what I'm about to drop. So read both of those. It's all about perspective. And then you got to read that one first and then Got Away is the second one.
You know what you should do is when you're done with the entire Irrational series, is
I have it in
all.
one big, I have it in one with big Word document that I probably will end up doing. And then put it on there and be like, here, just read the whole damn thing if you want. It's like 26 pages right now, but
and then honestly, I should do that and then like heavily market that one, like just
probably
at least daily, just like read. Spam.
Don't get pissed, but read. It's all here. You don't have to click on 17 different things. Just one, boom. I could just do that. Just have the two and just drop the whole thing and make you read all of it before you get to the last two. But that might not be a good idea. I don't know. You never know now. I don't know if I don't get enough feedback to know.
Well, I can tell you one thing. If you don't market it at all, it won't do very well.
No.
It's one thing I've learned.
Just like this podcast, I have to do better marketing for.
Both of us probably.
One of these days. One of these days.
One for the audience, one little new bit of info is we're now recording a week ahead as opposed to 2 weeks ahead. So we're actually not that far off. So, we should be able to actually like talk about stuff on the pod now, and then it won't be as old information by the time you get to it.
Yes.
Or as irrelevant, whatever. Insert word. But I guess that'll do it for this one. Follow us on our social media, leave a comment if you liked this video or if you liked this audio. Shout out to the Spotify listeners out there. And I guess that's it.
Make sure you buy the merch that Todd is beautifully wearing and promoting.
Yeah. If you don't want this t-shirt, what is wrong with you? Waste your money on this t-shirt.
we dropped the ball on the whole Black Friday sale. We should have done that.
I'll be honest with you, never even crossed my mind.
Yeah, it didn't cross my mind until like 2 days after. I'm like, oh, probably should have done that.
Even worse, I actually meant to put my books on sale.
Buy his books.
Yikes.
Buy his book.
Well, add it to your wish list and then wait for it to go on sale and then buy it.
There you go. Or you can do that too.
Yeah.
Or just flat out buy it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, whatever you say. I'm terrible at self-promotion, and
same.
That's where I'm going to leave that. So thanks for watching. Have a good evening or morning or day or night whenever you're watching this, and we will see you next time.